Hello everyone, I'm Lex from Gentry Collectibles, and today I'm going to go over a little bit of information about serving platters. So, I know you can only see a little piece of the 6 that are on the table here today, but good questions to ask yourself. Which is worth the most, right? Play the game. Which do you think is worth the most? Which do you think is the oldest? Which do you personally like the best? Meaning, given your demographic, say your age, maybe your cultural or social background, which piece is most appealing to you? Now, whether you're a buyer or a seller, being able to tell out of a selection of things, say, which is the most modern or which is the most appealing within the next 20 years for resale value if you're a collector. These are all important little games to play with yourself when you're looking at a series of different objects like this. And again, if you're a buyer, you want to get to know, say you collect pieces for a silver service, say you collect pieces for a lifetime collection of china that you've been putting together. Say that you just want one very nice piece to use maybe in a bed and breakfast that you own or during the holidays when you have lots of guests over. Information like this helps you as a buyer to know which pieces are worth what, when they're made, and that way you don't get taken advantage of and you get the nicest things. And then as a seller, it's also nice to have access to information like this that you can source the best products for, the best vintage items for your patrons, of course, and then also to not make the mistakes of maybe based on misinformation or a lack of background in these subjects, reselling things that maybe are only reproductions at, real evaluation prices. So, little bit of an overview. I'll just go through them one by one. I'll try to show them on the camera here. They're all pretty big. So this piece, you can't even see it. It's so large. You see that? This is an enamel stencil from the 1950s. I'm going to flip it over for you here. See that? Now, a lot of people will call this graniteware, and it actually isn't. That's a bit of a misnomer when you see that tag or title or name applied to a piece like this. This isn't graniteware. Real graniteware actually looks like rock. It'll look like granite because of the stippling effect in the manufacturing process. But this is an enamel turkey from, the 1950s. You can tell the differences in color patterns will actually help you date a decade. Like in the 1960s, because of the colors used more predominantly during those times. So you can actually tell the difference between a piece made in the 1950s and a piece made in the 1960s, sometimes based on whether the colors are bright and vivid or whether it's very drab and browns and olive greens. That's something to take into consideration. With a piece like this, size matters. The larger the piece, generally, if it's authentic, the more valuable it is. As with most trays, usually size matters. If you're a seller, sell it near Thanksgiving, right? Sell it when people are going to be looking to buy a really great piece like this. Of course, it wouldn't be safe. There is lead here. It wouldn't be safe to serve directly off of something like this, but you could definitely line it with baking paper, anything along those lines, and then use it as a service safely. Or even more often, when I sell pieces like this to patrons, it's for a centerpiece, where it's stood up on a cake stand or plate stand and just looks really beautiful as part of a larger centerpiece decoration. So, and if you're looking to buy it, be the person who buys it in the spring when it's not near Thanksgiving, because then when it's in lower demand, you can generally find something that's nice like this for a little bit less. But you have to be willing then to hold on to it and wait patiently for the moment to use it. So that's the trade-off involved in these sorts of things when it comes to supply and demand. This is about 18 inches wide. So, over a foot. One of those general things when you're trying to size things, you might not always have measurement on you, is to measure from the tip of your finger to the bottom of your elbow. And then when you're out and about, you might not have a ruler. You then know how many inches that is and can use your own arm as a measuring stick. When you're doing something like, say, trying to find a tray and trying to see whether it's worth what you might be being charged for it, that's really helpful. To be able to immediately know the size is a very helpful thing. So this is a very cool piece. These are very popular. Again, you see those bright white, red, yellows, greens of the 50s and 60s. They're called prosperity colors. They're joyful, they're engaging. Moving towards the 1970s, a piece like this would have duller colors. So instead of these bright contrast colors, you'd have muted oranges, kind of rust tones, avocado greens maybe, very rusty or brown golds instead of bright becoming golds. And again, enamel, ornamental, not graniteware. Graniteware is speckled. So that's a little bit on that piece. Let's give you another one here. Give you an idea of it. So here, something to look for when you're looking at platters, these rings, these donut rings and ridges on the bottom of a plate, go ahead and do your research. These rings can tell you a lot about any kind of dish or plate, or sometimes even bowls, as far as value, decade made. These are important things to know when you're trying to find the best pieces. As you can see there, that hallmark. Let's see if I can get to the camera for you. This one is Eschenbach, Bavaria, Germany. Beautiful little piece there. Has that very well-known platinum edge. Usually when I happen to see the made in Germany, the Eschenbachs, see this? These tend to be very gold rimmed or gold trimmed edges. You'll see a lot of gold gilt on different serving pieces. But this one has that beautiful blue with the platinum with that silver tone. Trim detail. So this one's about 12, a foot and, half an inch long. Again, serving platter, oval serving platter. Usually they are, but sometimes you'll see square, rectangular pieces. Danish, blue flowers and that style. I believe this pattern is known as coupe, if I remember correctly. Mid-century, 1952. China's really picking up again, too, with millennials and Z-Geners as people are putting together eclectic collections or trying to resource pieces to really fill out collections that remind them of older generations. So that's all something to think about. This piece is vintage, but it's a discontinued vintage piece. They aren't always something to watch out for. They aren't always hand painted. They do get reproduced. So again, this one's not an antique. The stamp is very good. Remember, with the stamps on, whether it's, if it's glazed, if it's a glazed piece, so whether you're dealing with china, different types of porcelains, different types of stonewares, a good stamp, if it's a glazed piece, should be under the glaze. So just try to keep that in mind. Something else to think about. I'm gonna set that guy way over there. I have no room on this table to show you anything. And we will do this one. So, quick guess, right off the top of your head, what do you think a piece like that would be worth? Right before I tell you. So come up with a number in your head. It's kind of a one-way game, me asking questions. This one, as you can see, also has a little bit of damage right through here. It's got that little chip. I'll show that to the camera a little bit closer. And there is a bit of a hairline fissure. Again, that's not a through and through crack, and I'll explain that difference. So this piece is worth about $45 to $50. In good condition, $50 to $56. It's the Garland by Fuji, 1946, if you were guessing the year in your head. Gold detailed, again, that trimmed, a lot of gold gilt you'll see around handles. This one's the leaf border in multicolors. See if I can show you that it's not just one shade of green. So when you're looking to buy something for good quality, sometimes having more colors, especially more hand-painted colors, different types of shades, shows more precision and detail and quality than, say, just one solid color through a whole piece's decorative trim. See, there's that crack there, little chip, little crack. See? Now, it's not this would be called stable, which means it's not actually continuing to split. It's not through and through, meaning that the crack hasn't traveled through the entirety of, the interior and exterior surface layers. So it's not likely to continue breaking as long as someone treats it gently. However, that is something to look out for, whether or not a crack is stable, right? So if you see a fissure or a crack and it seems like it's going to keep breaking, avoid that object. A little chip here does reduce, this is damage, that does reduce the value of a piece. I'll show you the stamp while I have it over. So as I said, Fuji, right? Made in occupied Japan. We look for that stamp a lot when we're sourcing pieces for patrons that collect occupied Japan pieces. And you have that beautiful little motif of Mount Fuji inside that hallmark. So occupied Japan, usually worth a little bit more as long as it is in a reproduction. Again, watch out for that. Watch out for transferware. Watch out for fakes. Watch out for reproductions. This one's about 14.5 inches, give or take. There's another one that has a vineyard pattern that's very popular. This leaf garland and then also the vineyard pattern, which is similar but has purple grapes inside of it as well. Very pretty. You could probably, in really great condition, and if you were sourcing it with other pieces as part of a greater collection, get more, obviously, than, say, the $50. You could probably get $60 for the platter itself in great condition with other pieces, because what you're doing is you actually create value when you create a collection, because the person buying it appreciates not having to go find all the pieces themselves. Basically, they're paying, maybe a 5 to 10% markup, depending on the market, to not have to go collect the pieces and to be able to buy them as a collection that's already been sourced together. That increases each individual, say, dish's value within that collection when you find them all together or when you take the time to put them all together. So when we're talking about vintage items, especially about servingware, that's something to always be keeping in mind and be very mindful of. I don't even know if I can show you this. I'm going to try to show you this very, very huge. This one is 21.5 inches by 14 inches wide. So think about that, almost 2 feet across by over a foot wide. I'm going to try to show you some of it. Let's see, I can't even get it in frame. Maybe I'm trying to not touch the other plates. Do you see? It's huge. It's so big. It's already collected just a little speck of dust just sitting in this room because it's so big. I think you have an idea, hopefully now, of the size of this piece. I'm going to try to find a place to set it down. It takes all my attention to just hold it and maneuver it before I can even talk about it. So this one is an Essex. This is the multi-ridge Essex. It's a 2-handled serving platter. There's a very similar piece to this that's about the same size. I think it even is the same size. Again, double-handled instead of the single handle, where it has only one of these ridges. Yeah, there's multiple ridges here. Just one in the same design platter made by the same company is called the Bristol, I believe. If you're trying to figure out the name, maybe you have one that looks like this but not quite. It could be the Bristol. This was made after 1921 but before 1947. Guess the value in your head before I tell you. What do you think? $20, right? $40, $100, $55 to $65. So remember, size does matter. Age often matters. Condition matters. So this is a beautiful piece. It's a wonderful piece. So you're looking at, you know, $55 to $65 depending on the condition and depending on who's buying it, when they're buying it, all of those sorts of things. Other names. I'm trying to remember. This is the Essex. There's so many. And see if I can show you the stamp on this one. Again, remember, look at those donut ridges. Look at those little, this one's gonna say Japan and not made in Japan, I believe. Yep, see that? That's an impress stamp. It's under the glaze, straight into the mold, so you know it's an original. And this one is a high mark, so there should be. Let's see if we can get that on camera for you. See this? I don't know if it'll focus for you. That's the little original high mark Japan sticker there. It's so big, I have to set it back down. Give you an idea of the value of that. Let's try another one. So this is called redware. Move this big guy out of the way. And see if I can get this one here for you. Windsorware or redware. Now, right off the bat, when I'm telling you that a piece like this is known as redware, what are you thinking? Because if you're thinking that's not red, it's purple, wonderful. You're thinking, right? A lot of times the labels, the terms we use when appraising objects, evaluating objects, or within the industries of the objects will tell you about that piece for a reason. So if something's being called redware and you're thinking, but it's not red, it's not crimson, it's not a beautiful brick, then there's a very good chance it's what? A reproduction. And this actually is. So now that you know that it's a reproduction, it's a beautiful reproduction, but now that you know, what do you think the value is? So you still have, you know, some lovely form details moving around the scalloped edge, but you do know that this is transferware, reproduction, not true redware. This one's known as the red rose. You could probably guess why. $35, not more than that. What year do you think it was made? Again, remember it's a reproduction. Because original, much older Windsorware red wares would be older, 1960 to 1965. So again, one way to tell, more purple than red. The real reds look red. They look, and they're hand painted, of course, hand applied. So if you were to look under a magnifying lens, a loop lens, you would see brushstrokes instead of these little pixelated these pointillism dots. You could probably make out, just see that? Transferware. Wonderful example of transferware and of a reproduction piece, but still has a value. Well done stamp. So see this? It's not trying to pretend to be authentic redware. It's saying what it is, but it is a reproduction style. I don't know if you can. And look, all decoration under the glaze, right? So they're trying to prove to you that there are some elements of creating this piece, even though it is a reproduction, even though it is more modern, that there's some elements to the creation of it that they were trying to pay attention to and do well, which of course they did, but it still isn't original, you know, redware. So good example of that. If you're wondering what that is, you know, when it's made, how much that generally is worth. And then, let's see if I can do this last one in this video for you. Just going over all sorts of different information on trays. So, put this one down. Evaluation. What do you think it's worth? Remember, quality. It's hard to tell the size on here, but size matters. Condition matters. Age. All things. When you're trying to decide what a piece is worth, whether or not to add it to your personal collection. I will tell you right now that if you've been playing along and guessing the prices, this is the most valuable piece on the table. So that right there should tell you it's likely the oldest. Because the condition, it's okay, but it's not incredible, right? So what's adding to the value here? Age. It could be an antique object. This is known as the Mayfair pattern. Highly detailed, right? Lots of stylization going on, a lot of metal work going on. Okay, you have a price in mind, $140 to $160. Obviously, this would be on the lower end of that scale because of the quality of the piece. If this were, near mint, minimal shelf wear, no scratches, a little bit of tarnish for age isn't the worst thing in the world, but definitely less condition problems to where you couldn't just use silver cleaning to remove those conditional problems. It would be towards the higher end of that range. So this is a Roger and Brothers. I think I said this already, but it's a Mayfair pattern. This is number 1780. If you have a similar piece and you're wondering about the information for it, 21 inches long. It has that lipped edge. That's one thing you can look for when you're looking for authentic Roger Brothers. There's so many stamps that are reproductions of Roger Brothers, so it's something to think about. Began in 1923. That's when Roger Bro began. So this is an antique, right? So 100 years old or older makes it an antique. That's the word we use in the industry. Less than 100 years old and it's vintage. So that's kind of the difference that's generally used by experts between those terms. Silver plate, not solid silver, but silver plate. Let me see if... I don't think I'm going to be able to show it to you on here because I don't know if this little camera's going to be able to pick up that mark for you. Yeah, it's not. It's in here, but I'm not going to be able to show it very well. Look at how reflective this is. Isn't that incredible? It's reflecting everything behind me and on the table. So that's a little bit for everybody. And I don't know, maybe next time I'll do Beanie Babies or more China teacups. Let us know, of course. You can like us on Facebook. You can find us in our Etsy shop if you want to message us. If you're interested in different sourcing services that we provide. Or if you just have a great suggestion for a video that you would like us to make, or you want more information on certain types of items because you're a collector, because you want to learn more about them, just hit us up, message us, email us, and we'll be happy to do that for you. Cheers.